Hello, everyone. My name is Alexander Ermenkov. Today is 30th of June, 2023, and I'm continuing my series, Daily Reality with Alex. And today I would like to speak about one topic, which I personally basically enjoy. And for disclaimer purposes, in this topic, I have a lot of personal advantages if more of you don't understand it and don't know it. And of course, the big issue is that maybe 90% of the human beings that are in the moment in this planet don't understand this topic, and the topic is the topic of money. We are constantly in our reality working with the money. We are on a daily basis observing them, spending them, gaining them, and still we don't understand the principles. And more importantly, we are not responsible and we don't have the right attitude towards our money. And this is especially true for the so-called spiritual people, the so-called people that think that the material doesn't matter. And basically, this is a very dear topic to my heart, not because I want to be positioned and to tell all of you that I'm such a strong materialist, but for sure, I'm very strongly involved into not disconnecting the spiritual and the material. Because according to my observations, we cannot understand the invisible, we cannot understand the spiritual without monitoring its expression through the material. We cannot understand the material if we are not able to grasp the behind the scene and what is making the material to be and to appear. And in this way, I would like to express you some of the things I have learned about money and I'm using daily, practically in my personal reality, and why I'm not afraid of money, why I'm not bothered to have money, why I'm very cautious and intentfully put my focus on creating more and more money into my own personal reality. And I'm going to share for a second my screen just to show you. If you go into my web page, which is alexanderermenkov.com, you can see more about me, but the interesting thing is what I offer. And there are 3 different programs, 2 of which are 100% mine: the Beyond Success Reality and Ruling Your Own Reality Basics. But in the Beyond Success Reality, if you go into this program, you are going to see everything that I'm offering for 1 month in a program with me. And the most important thing is for you to read what are the contents of this program, and then you are going to understand what are the things regarding money that we are constantly in necessity to understand. First, we are to understand the principle of excess and scarcity, because everything starts from there. Why are we multiplying creatures? How are we influencing reality? What is our ultimate strategic positioning? Why we know that we are limitless beings, and yet why we are in a situation where we are constantly experiencing limitations. In this Beyond Success Reality program, you are going to understand the principle of value, and it is much more than what we have heard through our economical and financial education. And for disclaimer purposes, of course, I have an education in economics, foreign and international relations, So I know a lot about money, I know a lot about investment, but still, this is not enough. What is given to the education system is only very strongly put onto the surface and is not answering the basic questions. Then in this program, you're going to learn about the two most important universal invisible assets, which are the time and the attention. Then a lot of more and more things, but anyhow, you can go into this. But the important thing which I want to speak about today is that money is a limitator, indicator of the current. I have even started to create a book about this because it is a very interesting phenomenon. And with the coming CBDC and the money which we are going to experience in the next 10 or 20 years, they are not going to have anything in common with what we are experiencing today. Money are becoming more and more conditional. Money are going to be connected much more with our essence and what we are expressing in reality. And of course, money is going to be much more traceable. So if the money is a limitator, indicator of our inner essence, in the next 20 years, we are going to experience this. And basically, maybe 90% of the humanity is going to experience our internal slavery and total control from this type of limitator. And in this presentation, I'm speaking about the universal exchange mechanism and currency liquidity indicators and what is allowed. And of course, you are going to learn a lot about how the money are based upon trust, but it's not only about trust, because more of the things created and connected to money, the interesting thing is why everything is allowed to perform as it is in the physical matter reality. And of course, all of us can say, well, Alex, but this is just a construct of the mind, and money is just an imaginary valuation of what? For example, let's say that I have $1 million and you, my listeners, are not having more than $5,000 each per year. Who is going to have more possibility to make exchanges and transactions in the physical matter reality, and also to do with this indicator much more things, me or you? Of course, we all know the answer, but we don't want to go into the responsibility principle. And I'm willing to express more about this subject. And the interesting thing is that it's so broad, and it is one of the most fundamental things we are to understand, and why actually spirituality and physical material blessings and to experience excess of material thing is important and is connected with spirituality. And of course, a lot of us can discuss and debate this, but at least I have decided in my own reality to not only experience this, to focus on this, to fundamentally deep dive into understanding more and more this principle, not only on the surface level. So I am giving this principle a lot of attention. And of course, it is such an interconnected indicator, the money. And when For example, you can say, yes, but Alex, I have only $500, and let's say you have $1 million, and does it mean that I'm less worthy than you? No, it only means that we are focusing on different aspects of reality, but it gives us also advantages and disadvantages. And that's why I'm now going to share a very important part of one presentation that I have that I would like to share with you, which is very important about understanding reality and why reality is working like this. So just imagine that reality is divided in 4 quadrants depending on our internal experience and upon our external experience. If we are able to dwell only in the internal experience and to not experience any needs, and if we don't need to feed this body, because anyhow, without the body and without the existence of this shell, paradoxically, we are not able to experience the difference between the external and the internal, because the internal is somewhere within us, experienced through the body. Yes, yet it's limitless, and yes, it is not in the body, but we need this border zone shell in order to experience it. And you can say, well, Alex, if I'm able to spend all my experience only in the individual external, I'm not going to be in necessity of money. Then the problem is that since we have a body that needs the food, and another thing where I'm exploiting a lot, the same body needs a shelter. And I'm very strongly investing into real estate, and I have a lot of renters in the shelters that I'm owning, where they, through their bodies, are experiencing their reality. It doesn't matter if it's internal, external, or whatever they are experiencing. In order to experience, we need shelter and we need energy through the food. And because of this, since it's not possible to experience only the internal, we are in necessity of this indicator of the limitations that are experienced in the external reality called money. Is this indicator enough to create a strong individual internal experience? Of course not, but it is a necessity in order to sustain our experience. So the quadrant 1 is divided between the internal experience of ourselves and our individuality. Everything there is behind our brain, within our thoughts, within our feelings, within our imaginations. But with the new CBDC, digitally controlled and conditioned money that are going to come in the near future, they are going to inherit also intrinsic value that is going to be conditioned based on your internal individual experience and the way you and I are expressing in the physical matter reality. So anyhow, the day will come when we are to understand that if we don't understand money, if we don't understand the principle of why wealth, excess are connected with our internal spirituality, we are going to go into necessity to sacrifice this part of our reality in order to sustain the body principle. Of course, we can go into a sacrificial experience, and as a Christian, as I am, there are such type of experiences where the body is not mattering as much as the internal experience, because there there is a different perspective. But since it is good to understand the principles and to know why there are so many strings that can influence us, even if we constantly deny it or reject it, and it is much more better to be positioned in such a way that we know how to live in excess and abundance, how to be able to grow, create, and responsibly work with the money principle in order to not be in necessity to sacrifice. Of course, if we are put to the wall to choose between money or spirituality, if I ask all of us today, we will say, of course, Alex, we are going to choose spirituality. But when it comes to the physical matter reality, maybe 99% of us are not going to choose it. And little by little, anyhow, we are going to be led to this conclusion in the way reality is developing. And that's why it's much more better to understand the spiritual aspect of wealth abundance and the money indicator. And just to continue with the first quadrant, here is everything that we call the invisible part of us. So money are going to start influencing the way we extract awareness, the way we perceive reality, the way our consciousness and subconsciousness are working if we don't understand how to guard this part of ourselves through having big enough cushions to not allow the money indicator to ask us to choose. Are we going to choose consciousness or the money indicator that is going to force us to go into a more animal state of compromise in order to eat, in order to have shelter, in order to create existence for this body? And of course, long term, all of us are going to know, and we are to guard very well these distinguishings, and everything goes much more deeper. And that's why I'm constantly preparing my mindset, my heart set, my will set, and my care principle, and my generative principle, because all the generation of the reality comes from the individual internal. But the problem is that it cannot be sustained without the second part, the external individual part of us we call the body. We have all the functions there. Through the body, we are feeling, we are experiencing the energy, and so on and so on. And this body, if we haven't yet noticed, have some needs. And these needs, in order to be sustained, all the society have created the money indicator in order all these things to be working. Of course, we can say, well, Alex, we are entering such a societies, an utopian experience where the governments and the elites are going to take care for all of us, and we are going to be spending all of our time in the quadrant one, and to develop our spirituality, and to be disconnected from reality, and just to experience partially what we decide. We can go into this hopian and wishful thinking and delusions all day long, but if we want to be balanced creatures, who knows how to work and deal with the reality, we are to understand the interconnectedness of money. Of course, then, the collective internal is also going to be impacted by the money principle. All the religions, beliefs, worldview, science, walls, orders, values, culture, language, knowledge, concepts, theory are 100% and constantly funded by these resources we call money. There is no possibility for any religion to be sustained without this money indicator. Beliefs, in order to be spread, there is a necessity of the money indicator, and so on and so on. And a lot of us know about the woke movement and about a lot of different movements that are constantly funded by rich billionaires who have decided to transform their material money into effects, into the quadrant number 3 of reality, the collective internal, in order to create non-material assets that they value. And there is a very interesting part of reality where we are able to transmute material, money, and wealth indicators into non-materials, valuable assets, and vice versa. Our internal individual and internal collective assets can be transformed into material money indicators of wealth and abundance. And of course, all of us are acquainted with the quadrant number 4 of the reality, where is the collective external, where is the generational wealth. And if we speak about the generational wealth, maybe 99.99% of us don't understand what's the meaning of generational wealth, because when we finish our job here, we are not leaving almost anything to the future generations. And of course, we are also not teaching them how to protect wealth for their future generations. And why this is important, wealth and abundance to be accumulated from generation to generation into a specific family, nation, racial, and so on, genetical, or whatever type of distinguishings we want to say, principles. And there are some families, there are some rich genetical breeded beings that are understanding this principle and are constantly protecting their generational wealth. And of course, we can blame them that they are the 1%, that so on and so on, but this is not the purpose. The purpose and the reason is to know that it is possible for all of us. It doesn't matter if we translate to the other generation $1,000, $1 million. The important thing is to understand the principle that this is a good thing, to understand how we can upgrade our future genetical inheritance into being less and less dependent in order to create and to develop its own internal spirituality. And of course, here in this expression of the civilization, where all this so-called money indicator is constantly monitoring and observing the so-called civilizational accumulation of wealth. And we have all the assets here, all the wealth, all the industrialization, technology, civilization, but also we have the intrinsic wealth that belongs to all of us, the air, the nature. And that's why there is so strongly the development of all these movements about the clean environment in all its aspects, because if we are exploiting nature in order to create wealth, we are actually taking from each other's richness in order to enrich a small part of our societies. And of course, all of us know this, but the important thing is how we are to live and to understand the power of this money indicator, of the limitations of reality for each one of us, and to know that we are responsible not only to be good, not only to express goodness, not only to raise our own consciousness, but also to have our own daily personal expressions in all the four quadrants of reality, as well as more of us through the expression of how we are performing and what type of body structure and body shape we have. We are making conclusions for the internal part of this specific person, and we are so strongly into body shaming or into body praising because we are making deduction about, is it a strong-willed person, is it a disciplined person, does it care about its external experience, external appearances, and so on and so on. And I personally was a human being that was not so interested in my external expression of the body, but what I realized is that if I want to continue living 90 plus years in this experience, in order to have my own personal impact in these four quadrants of reality, I am to take care of this body to be vivid, to be energetical, and to be in a good health. And what I realized recently, that even the banks with which I'm working, because of the insurances that they are making for me, they are also constantly monitoring my body health, my body weight, my body expression, my body vividness, and so on and so on. So in an interconnected reality, everything is important. And when we go to the money indicator, if we don't understand that our responsibility is to accumulate, not to spend only, and to spend more than we earn. Because if we go into this direction, then we are going to become part of the beings that have decided that to experience the now, that to care for the future of the material world is not important. But of course, there are a little part of the human beings that are entering this accumulation process and are taking seriously this responsibility about money creation. And I have decided to be part of these beings, not because I love money or I love the external things that money are giving me, but because I want to protect my internal expressions. I want to strongly impact and influence the collective internal, and I want to have more and more freedom to express everything that is working for me and to share it with all of you. And then I would like to be a good example of a person who knows how to take care of money. And maybe from a lot of time, I've never been working with the ownership principle that I own anything. Maybe you've heard the phrase for 2030 that you will own nothing and be happy. I'm happy for a long time. I own a lot, but I'm not attached to it because, according to me, all of us are just stewards of the accumulated wealth. And if we understand this principle, we are going to disconnect from the collision between rich and poor. Of course, we are not in a necessity to praise the rich and to say, well, the rich are our gods because they have all the material things and they are the ones that are giving us all the material benefits. But what I'm saying that everyone has its own responsibility. That's why it's much more harder for a rich person to enter the heavenly, to enter the above, because if a rich person doesn't understand the principle of transmutation and the principle of translation from the physical materiality to the non-physical materiality, and that the primary in reality is the non-physical, and their money doesn't matter, but since the both parts of the reality, the expressional appearance form part of reality, and the part of the essence are important. And of course, in the part of this reality where the essence is, the important thing there is only the positioning. And I can go more and more about this money limitator principle of reality, but just I would like to encourage all of us today with my daily reality talks to know that we are to spend at least 25% of our time and to spend it in this quadrant number 4 of reality, where are all the external collective expressions of all of us. And we can debate long, we can go into hours and hours of discussion, but I see more and more how this money principle is going to strongly impact a lot of human beings that doesn't understand the power of this indicator that all of us are constantly monitoring and observing. And of course, the way we identify ourselves is very important, because we are not to identify with any of the 4 quadrants. We are not our money, we are not our mind, we are not our heart, we are not our body, we are not our knowledge, we are not our wisdom. And of course, some of you can ask me, okay, Alex, what we are, where are we from, and where are we going? This is what we are learning through all our experience in this realm, and no one can give you 100% a definite, provable answer to this. But what is important for me is that there is an afterlife, that there are much more primary things that are lasting and important. And of course, for me as a Christian, the most important thing is to know the creator of the universe, and to know why we, the human beings, were in a necessity to have a savior. But of course, these are my private, own, personal searches and exploration, and all of us can go into all the ways that we want. But the important part is to understand that in reality, there are structures that cannot be avoided. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your reality. Strongly be involved into the money accumulation principle, at least in the balanced form of not taking more than 25% of your existence. Bye-bye. Enjoy your reality.